Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and I am so excited that you're here to catch the weekly replay of my laid-back yet very inspiring conversations with other full-time professional artists. The purpose of this series is to show aspiring artists that it is completely possible to have a great career in the arts. And if you ever want to tune in and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just check out the schedule over at facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday to catch us on live. I'll see you there. This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time six-figure art business. With weekly trainings that include step-by-step proven art business techniques, plus painting tutorials from yours truly and other guest artists who are masters in their field, you will be well equipped to learn and grow into the highly skilled and highly profitable artist you know you're meant to be. I've figured out what it takes to build my own six-figure art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. It's not hard, but it does require your time and dedication. So, if you're up for the challenge, go to advancedmember.com. That's advancedmember.com to learn more. This week's episode features UK-based wildlife artist and animal rights advocate, Sophie Green. I felt like I was talking to a girlfriend in this interview. Sophie just keeps it real. She says it like it is, but in the nicest possible way. She's full of advice, and this fun fact was a first for me. Did you know that Sophie gets a lot of her commission requests from Twitter? Yep, Twitter. I've never had an artist say that on an interview, but I'm intrigued. It's always Instagram or art shows or any other traditional route, but never Twitter. We talk about ways to get more work and where to focus your time as a self-employed artist. She shares about how it took her around 3 years to transition from full-time teacher to full-time artist. She found a method that worked for her, and now she's seeing the benefits of it, and she's sharing it with you. She mentions also to leave your ego at the door, especially when first starting out as an artist in the very beginning, and I think that will hit home to anyone in the very beginning of this art journey who is not getting immediate sales and is beating themselves up over it. It's okay. It's okay to take a few years to get to a goal. And it's okay to not have people banging at your door right out of the gate in the very beginning for your art. Even with this podcast, if you go listen to the very first couple episodes, I had no idea what I was doing. And now, a year later, I feel like I'm just now getting it figured out. And we've just now began to grow. But having a goal in mind and a direction to head towards is something that has helped me and Sophie be, quote, successful, and she shares how she went about it in this interview. I'm telling you guys, this is a pretty good one. So let me know what you think about this week's episode with Sophie Green. If you could just kind of start out by giving a little bit of a backstory about who you are, how you got into the art world, and all of the things.
I can. So my name is Sophie Green, and I'm an animal artist. And yeah, I've probably, like every other person you've ever interviewed, I've done art my whole life, and I've painted and drawn and done stuff like that since I was a child. But being a full-time professional in inverted commas artist is kind of a new thing for me, and so I'm still getting my head around it. I used to sort of draw animals a lot when I was a kid, and I've always been obsessed with animals. I've had a real affinity with them. And then when I grew up, I just kind of got a normal job, and I didn't think much about becoming a full-time artist just because it didn't really seem like it was in the realm of possibility for me personally. I just didn't know any full-time professional artists myself, and so I didn't think that was really a thing you could do. And I went into working in the film industry, and then became a full-time teacher after that, primary school teacher in England, but it's elementary school for you guys. And I did that for a few years, and I still kind of painted and drew and did like the odd commission here and there and stuff. But as life took over and work sort of got busier and busier, I just had less time for that. So I started to daydream a little bit about what it would be like to be a professional artist, and to get to do that for a living and make a difference and raise awareness for issues around animal welfare and conservation and stuff like that. So I eventually kind of went for it, and here I am now, still learning, but yeah,
that's
loving
awesome. So you went into the film industry. What did you do in the film industry?
Yeah, I did standing in and doubling work for actresses. So basically, there's films out there, there's shots of actresses, but it's actually me. That's the only way I can really describe it. I don't know.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone watching this kind of knows anything about that sort of area, but it's basically the film crew will either use me to set up a shot on an actress, and then the actress will step in, and that's a stand-in, or they'll actually film on me. Or sometimes I'll be doing offlines, they call them, off camera with an actor. So it will be an actor saying the lines to the other actress, but it would actually be me replying and stuff like that. So it's different. It's a different world.
Oh my gosh.
And it's really fun. But
I bet. Yeah. I never even thought about that too, like how they would use one person to set up so that other person could get ready, I guess.
I know. It's amazing. And yeah, I just kind of fell into that actually. I started doing it when I was quite young. I was probably like 18 when I started doing it. And I did it for a number of years. And I think it's a great job to have, but I don't think it's really a career. And there's probably people that do it for a career that are going to hate me right now for saying it, but it's a difficult one to get into if you want to do it for the rest of your life. So for me, it was fun while it lasted, but then I sort of got pushed into doing like a proper job. And yeah, ended up teaching, which I love as well. And I still do work with children just because I love them and love helping children and stuff. So I still do that from time to time. But I've done a lot of different things. Those two are the main ones, but I've done so many different jobs over the years.
I love that. It's so unique. So are there movies out there with like the back of your head in them?
Yeah, it's really weird. And there's some films where, for the most part, people don't know it's me, but there'll be one or two where someone's like, I thought I saw you, but I don't know, you were like bald, so I wasn't sure. I'm like, yeah, that was me.
Awesome. So what do you think the tipping point was for you that really took you into full-time artist?
Well, I would say there probably wasn't one specific moment where I was just like, I'm going to quit my job and become an artist, and who cares about bills. I just kind of over the course of maybe a couple of years gradually started reducing my hours at work, and I went down to part-time and then became a tutor within schools instead of a full-time primary school teacher. So then I would tutor children individually or in small groups, and started doing that. And then the more time I had for my art, the more that kind of took off. And eventually, when I had enough artwork coming in, I kind of gradually made the move. But it certainly wasn't something that I just jumped into. I sort of gave myself a proper business model and wrote out goals and made sure that I would have enough money coming in and all sorts like that. So I feel like, I hear stories about artists that are like, yeah, I just decided to go for it. And, it worked out great for them. And I'm like, okay, that's amazing. But yeah, for me, that wasn't the case. And I feel like it would be a slight disservice to say that it's easy and, just go for it. I think you do need to prepare for it and be quite brave to do that sort of thing.
For sure. And I think this is a great topic to start on too, because a lot of artists, and even in the Artist Academy and out, I hear a lot are teachers. And I almost took the teacher route because, like you, I love teaching. Really? And I think teaching too is like what we're told that artists can do, whether it's like you could be an art teacher or a commercial artist in some way, maybe, but teacher is like the main thing. That's what I thought. That was the only route I thought I could do. And so a lot of art teachers now even are like kind of transitioning out of that and doing their own thing. How long, if you could put like a number of years or months on it, were you always thinking you would be a full-time artist, or like did you, like how maybe it was like a transition over a year, or?
Honestly, it was probably about 3 years, I would say, that I had it in my head. Before that, I always loved doing it, but I never had the idea in my head to actually be an artist. So I would say it was only when I was sort of working and didn't have enough time to do art that I started to realise, actually, I should be doing this for a living. And actually quite a few of my friends in the space of those 3 years were like, why are you not doing this for a living? Like, you should be doing this. And so eventually I decided to make the leap, but it was probably a good 3 years, I would say. I mean, it doesn't have to be that long. If someone's listening and they're doing a job that they don't want to do anymore and they want to do it, then, if you can put the plans in place, then go for it. But for me, it was probably that long, I would say.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So what makes up your typical workday now? Like, how many hours do you spend painting?
Well, it differs greatly, and I don't know if you're the same, but my schedule's kind of all over the place. But I would say I wake up and the first thing I do is to check my emails, and I'm really bad for that. I go straight on my laptop or my phone. I'm doing emails and admin and contacting printers and sorting out sales and social media as well, which is a huge part of it that I never thought I would be saying as an artist. But that takes up a lot of time and a lot of energy, and I do that. And then I probably don't start painting and doing actual artwork until about lunchtime-ish, I'd say. I paint for a few hours and then I go for a walk or get my head out of that space for a little while, and then come back to it and probably paint until about between 9 and 10 p.m.
Oh,
and
wow.
I do that 7 days a week. So, it's kind of quite bitty for me. But at the same time, I needed to create a sort of schedule for myself where I could maintain that drive and focus and motivation. And I find that so difficult being self-employed and having to manage your own schedule. I find it difficult to sit down with a paintbrush and paint for hours and hours at a time. So I have to kind of break it up with other stuff and do stuff like that. But that's my current schedule. See how long that lasts.
Yes, I'm just like you. When I have to do stuff at home, if I have to go do a mural and I have to be there at a certain time, I'm like, okay, like then it gets the day going. But starting off on my own too, it's like I'll do emails in bed, just like you.
Yeah,
and I tell people, like, don't follow my thing. I'll make like an Instagram post in the morning, so it's like out of the way. It's all like from my bed.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly what I do. It's not as glamorous as it looks.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about your Instagram really quick though, because that is I found your Instagram not too long ago, but I love your posts. Your photographs are so well done. And so, do you take them with your iPhone or do you take them with a good camera? Like, do you edit? What's your?
Yeah, I take them with a camera, and I'm actually really lucky because my friend lent me all this camera equipment. It's this fancy, expensive camera equipment that I probably would never be able to buy for myself. And he was just like, I have all this stuff. And I think he bought it for himself because he was planning on making like a YouTube channel or something a long time ago and never got around to doing it. So he was like, yeah, just use it for as long as you want. And I was using it for a while, and then the lockdown started. And then I was like, oh, what a shame. I can't give it back to you. It's social distancing. Yeah. So I've got it and I use all of that. But yeah, I use a Canon SLR to take all my photos and softbox lights and stuff like that. And then I edit myself in Lightroom. And because I actually take the photos for my prints as well, I kind of I feel like I have to have quite a good quality photo anyway for that purpose. So it kind of makes sense to use the same sort of materials and instruments for my Sorry, someone just texted me. The friend that lent me all the camera stuff just texted me.
Oh,
So
weird.
like,
Brainwaves.
That's what started that off. But I do follow quite a lot of people on Instagram. They're amazing artists. You being one of them, actually. I think I followed you since I started my art Instagram page. So.
Oh, wow.
And I love like looking at people's pages and seeing how they take their photos and stuff. So I have a lot of inspiration from that, and I just love doing it. I love curating all the photos and stuff like that.
I can tell.
Important.
It is important. Everybody should go check out your Instagram. It's Sophie Green Fine Art. Is that?
It is indeed.
Okay, awesome. I got it. I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, Sophie Green Fine Art. Check it out, because your aesthetic is all just really great too. It's like has a good balance of lights and darks, and I just think people should take advantage of that and take notice.
Well, I mean, I feel like my page is quite monochrome compared to a lot of people's page. Like your page, for example, is very bright and colourful. And I feel, and actually people have said to me in the past, and someone said to me once at an art show, oh, you must really only appeal to men. And I was like, why? And they're like, oh, because all your artwork's like black and white, or like, you know, dark and light. It's not colourful and bright, and that's what girls like. And I was like, I've never really thought about that.
Way to stereotype person.
Yeah, I was like, okay, thanks for that. But yeah, so sometimes I feel a bit paranoid about that.
Oh no, I wouldn't at all. That's not at all. Yeah. Actually, I get from your page, the emotion that I get is sophistication. And
amazing.
Yeah, it honestly is, because I kind of have this, like, it's funny how we all have our little things in the back of our head, because you know how like bright pinks and rainbows and stuff. I'm like, am I seen as a kid? Because this is kind of a kid thing, but I'm like, whatever, I like it, I don't care. So that's kind of in the back of my head. I'm like, this is very childlike for a 30-year-old. But
no, I don't think that at all. I think happy. I think it's more like positive and upbeat rather than like a certain age or a gender. I just feel like that's kind of dumb. But yeah.
Okay, good.
But that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so can you talk us through your painting process? Are there any methods or techniques that you've picked up? You do very realistic paintings. How long does it take you to do a painting? I know that's a lot of questions in one.
Well, it takes a while, but then I do procrastinate a lot. So
honesty,
maybe that's why. I think it's been a learning process, and I'm self-taught as well. So I didn't go to art school or art college or anything like that. So everything that I've learned either through practicing over a number of years or just through watching tutorials and YouTube videos and stuff like that. So for me, because I go more towards the realism style, I feel like I have to work a lot on layering to get detail as well. So I mean, you'll know all artwork's made up of layers anyway, but when you're doing more realistic paintings, you feel like you have to do more layers and layer upon layer, because that's what animals or humans or whatever you're painting, that's what they're made up of, essentially. So it takes a lot of patience, and I'm still learning. And in all of my areas of my art, I'm still learning. But my process is more building up layers and creating that depth just through. It's hard to explain without going into too much detail and talking your ear off. But if you go on my Instagram and you look at my pictures or my time-lapse videos, you'll see the layers that I build up of the paint is very much sort of, I go from vague to detail, and the more and more detail you add. And I think when you first start off painting, if you want to go for that realistic style, you get a little bit impatient and you're like, I'm gonna just do painting in 3 days and that's it. And if it doesn't look realistic, I'm gonna hate myself forever. But I think it comes with a lot of patience and just realizing you have to just keep building up those layers, just keep going and keep going and keep going. And the more layers you build up of all the details and the depth and everything, then you'll eventually get there. But yeah, I probably haven't done a very good job of explaining that, but
no,
that's
great,
essentially what my style is.
Layers is a really good piece of advice too, because a lot of beginner artists, they'll put down a color that they see, you know, they're like, well, I see like a light blue right there, and they'll put down light blue, and they're like, why isn't it working? And I'm just like, layer it.
Exactly. Yes. And I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're painting or creating any piece of artwork, the process isn't just getting a canvas or a piece of paper and starting it. For me, it starts from an idea that I have in my head, and I'm like, okay, well, for example, if I'm going to do a rhino, I then have to research the rhino. There's different types of rhino, there's different breeds, so to speak. And then from there, I look at reference photos, and I personally prefer to use quite a few different reference photos. So some artists will just find a reference photo and just copy it. But I like to look at lots of different pictures of the animal in different lighting, in different environments, and then use all of those photos to create an idea and a concept in my head. And then from there, I then think, okay, so this is what the rhino looks like, but what's it actually made up of? So underneath all of the colours that you can see with your eye, when you first look at it, what comes underneath there, and where does the shadow come in, and where's the light coming from, and the light source, and stuff like that. So that's really what you have to do when you're layering as well. You have to think back to behind what you can just see with your bare eyes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, yes.
Definitely.
That's very garbled.
Yes, no, it's great. It's a good like overarching explanation of it without going into like showing every little hair detail, because that's not possible. But
no.
Okay, I like how you use all these different reference photos, and so I can like hear people's questions in my mind of my students and stuff, and so they're asking like, where do you get your reference photos?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. I should have said that before. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because that's something I did a lot of research into, because I didn't want to get into hot water, like finding a photo and being like, that's cool, I'm going to use that. And then someone, because photographers are artists as well, and they put so much time and energy into their work. And I would hate to be a photographer and for someone to like use one of my photos without asking or anything. So if you do find a photo that you love and you want to use it and as a reference photo and copy it, you have to ask the permission of the photographer, and obviously they may charge you for that, and that's great. Some photographers are amazing. They're like, just give me £25 or dollars or whatever, and that's fine. And some ask for a percentage of what you would sell the artwork for. And if you be specific and say, I'm going to sell it, or it's going to go into an exhibition, or it's for charity or something like that, then you can come to some kind of arrangement. But there are photos out there that are sort of in the Creative Commons, so you don't have to get the permission of the artist, or you might just have to credit them or something like that. But yeah, because a lot of the photos that I use, I just happen to see while I'm scrolling through Instagram or, online or something. I just save them as I go along and make a note of who the photographer is. And then when it comes to it, I then contact them and see if I can use it in some way. But yeah, that's how that works. So that's a good question.
Oh, good. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that too. Just ask permission, because there are so many times, even artists, how would you feel? That's kind of how I approach it too. Like, how would you feel if you created this like original, really cool thing, and then somebody just copied it and without telling you?
Yeah, I know.
It's just like,
It's awkward territory, and I think the more, because of my artwork, I've been getting into photography myself as well. So it's kind of a thing I'm learning about in some ways too. So you realize how much time and energy goes into all of the artwork and stuff like that, and it's the same with music. And yeah, I think it's important that we should all support each other, because the photographers deserve credit too. They're doing amazing jobs.
True, and we're all in the arts, so we're all in this together, basically.
Yeah.
So what is one thing you don't like to paint without?
Well, in terms of artistic materials, I would say, if you're just starting out painting, I wouldn't say rush out and go and buy, all the most expensive stuff. But if you're a professional, I would say I personally can't work without high quality brushes and the right type of paint. Because for years I would just use whatever was cheapest in the store and just buy brushes, and I didn't even look at what they were made up of whether they were synthetic or what, and I would just use them. And then it wasn't until I really did my research and I discovered what was the best thing to use that I realized how much easier it makes your life. And so I would say I can't live without or work without good brushes and good paint. And in terms of non-artistic materials, I cannot work without some form of noise in the background, like music or podcasts or documentary, something. It has to be. I can't work in silence. It's really difficult.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really jealous of any artist that can work in silence. Some people have answered that question. They're like, I could just sit and paint all day with nothing. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I'm like, how? Like you must be so zen in your head. Like
alone with your thoughts. That's horrible.
Thank you. Okay. Yes,
no,
exactly
I'd go insane. It's like, no, couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of podcasts at the moment, and because I struggle because I don't have a TV as well, so I can't put something on the TV while I paint because I use my laptop to look at like reference photos and stuff. So I just listen to music or podcasts or have some kind of noise in the background. Yes. But yeah, that's for me.
Awesome. Yes. And I love that you mentioned high quality paints too. With a lot of my students too, I'm like, just go get whatever you want, because you can kind of get away with that in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, and you can create good stuff, but to create photorealistic like you do, you need high quality paint. And bless your patience. I just want to say that. Bless your patience.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, for years I was painting like fine hairs with really thick, gloopy, cheap paint. And it wasn't until fairly recently in my career that I realised, like, oh, there's better paints for that make my life so much easier. And I was trying to use like big, thick brushes to create these tiny little like pieces of fur. And then, you learn. It's all a learning curve.
Yeah, for sure. So are there any art lessons you've learned the hard way? So like kind of like using the wrong kind of supplies?
That would be one of them, definitely. Yeah, using the wrong sorts of materials. We learn. And then also just little things like how to preserve brushes. It's just something that people don't really think much about when they first start out, but then they realise they're going through so many brushes and spending so much money on materials, and they just need to learn how to look after their stuff a little bit better. That's something that I went through. Stuff like looking after the painting as well, like once it's finished. I think a lot of people finish a painting and then they just kind of send it off without, varnishing it and packaging it correctly. Sometimes it's just worth spending a little bit more money on, going with an art courier, for example, rather than just sending it in the post. That sort of thing's really important. I would say as well, when you're trying to become a professional artist, I would say just to leave any expectation or like sense of entitlement at the door, because I feel like a lot of people, and me included, was just like, why aren't I selling all my artwork, and why aren't I a really successful artist right now? And I think you just need to like park that and just really take time to refine your skill and build up clients and do that sort of thing, because you can really hurt your self-esteem if you have some kind of expectation when you go into it. And I think that's something I've learned the hard way, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And I see that a lot with students who are just starting out too. Like they had just created their website, they had just started calling themselves an artist, and they're like, why am I not making money? I'm like, it's because you just started. But like, I promise you a year from now is going to be in such a better place. And they're like, oh, okay. Because it is. It's
totally.
It's that like that realistic moment of you. Because, when you apply for a job and you get a job, you work and you're working 40 hours and you're making, so much. So this is just a whole other world. Yes.
It really is. I suppose it's the same with any kind of self-employment thing though. I mean, artists, musicians, like everybody struggles when they first start out. And I can't remember who it was, but somebody posted a while ago saying that they get, and it was an artist who has quite a lot of Instagram followers, and she said a lot of people were kind of almost annoyed at me for having so many Instagram followers, and they're like, why haven't I got that many? And then she said something like, well, have you looked at how many photos I've posted? Because people look at the follower count, but they don't look at how many posts they've got. She was like, I've got 1,000 posts. Like, if you've only posted 100 pictures, it takes time. You have to build it all up. So, yeah, I feel like that's something that you learn with time. But
so true. I love that. Yeah, there's so much more behind the scenes that we don't even know.
Definitely.
So, how do you get most of your clients? Is it through Instagram or?
Actually, no. Weirdly, I would say my main social media is Twitter.
Oh,
weirdly.
That is a first. Wow. Tell me more.
Well, I don't know what's going on over there, but it's really kicking off for me. I don't really even have that many followers compared to my Instagram page, but and I wouldn't have thought Twitter was a great platform for selling art, because it's less visual, whereas Instagram obviously is more of a visual platform. But yeah, I just weirdly have found that a lot of my clients have come from Twitter. And I do get clients through Instagram, but I would have to say a lot of it is word of mouth, to be fair. And just when you first start out, it's all of your friends and family are the ones shouting about it. They're your main people and they're your main fans. And so I have, some really good friends that have bought a lot of my artwork, and then they've shared it with their friends and they've said, oh, this person wants a commission, and it spiraled from there. And then from there, people were shouting about it on their social media pages, and that's how I was gaining more followers and more clientele and stuff like that. So at the moment, it's really hard to tell what's social media and what's word of mouth, because they kind of link in together in some way. Mm-hmm. They kind of go together, and it's a difficult one. But
that's very true.
Mainly.
Yeah, this past year, I sat down and I did every single project I had, and then I put next to it how I got it, and then some I was like, well, like, they responded by Facebook posts, but like I kind of know them in person, and they also saw my Instagram post that I know for sure, and like so it's like it all kind of works together too, because I kind of think of like your family and your friends, and you sound like you have a very good core family and friends that are shouting and encouraging you to do this. Yeah,
definitely.
And it's just they tell people about it, and then I feel like social media is reminding people, like people already know you, but social media is just reminding them every day, hey, I'm an artist, and just like catching them on the day that maybe they might need something, or maybe they want to buy something.
Definitely. I mean, that is very organised of you, by the way. Writing down where you have got every piece of work from.
It took like an hour.
I know. I wish I had the time to do that.
Once a year only.
Yeah, that's a really good business thing to do, though, to be fair. But I feel like social media is a funny one, because almost, I don't want to say everyone and then get shouted at, but almost everyone has at least one form of social media nowadays. And it's how most people keep in contact with each other nowadays as well. So actually, if I say, I've gotten most of my work through social media, but then I wouldn't have got it if I hadn't have known this person already in person that had then shared it or retweeted it or done this or that. And one of my friends, again, going back to having a good network of friends, one of my friends is a children's author, and so he just has a lot of his friends that are sort of like illustrators or writers or in that sort of artistic sphere. And so when he shares my work, I then get a lot of people coming from all those sorts of areas, and it's technically social media, but then it's not, because it's through a friend of mine. So it's very interlinked. But social media, I would say, use it and do as much of that as you can. Yes, for sure.
I love that you said that too, because I'm always like, social media, post every day, post just once a day, like do all this.
Definitely,
because you never know. And like when I did that, so every year I write out like where I get my stuff, but every year it kind of changes. Like one year it was Instagram, that was my main one, and then last year it was mostly word of mouth, and now this year is more, I don't know, social media maybe, I don't know. So it kind of like so like I can find that out, but I still don't like discredit, like if I don't get a lot from Facebook one year, I'm not going to post on Facebook, I'm still going to post on Facebook. And so
exactly, I think that's wise. And you probably do what I do in the morning when I'm in bed on my phone and I make a post on Instagram, and then I'm like, right, copy that to Twitter and do that on Facebook, maybe a Reddit post, and just go through every social media. And it feels a little bit, I get self-conscious of people being like, oh my God, will you shut up about your artwork? Because I just do not stop. And even on because I have a personal Instagram page, and even on there, I'm still putting everything on my story. And a lot of my friends follow my personal page and my art page. So then they're getting it twice, and then going on Facebook and seeing it, and then Twitter. It's like, people must just get so irritated by it. But again, like you said, it's just reminding people like, I'm still an artist, and I'm still, I still need to eat and pay my rent. So
exactly. And just, it's funny because we all think that, and you saying that, I'm like, no, you're crazy, like they keep posting. And then I'm like, oh wait, I literally just asked my friend not 2 weeks ago. I was like, so my Instagram links to my Facebook, so it posts there, but it posts to my Instagram business or my Facebook business page, and then I'll use my personal Facebook page to share it, so it goes on my personal. And I text my friend the other, I'd say 2 weeks ago maybe, and I was like, hey, does this annoy you? Because I'm like, because you're seeing it twice, and do you notice? Do you care? And they're like, no. As they're like, actually, I probably do see it twice, but it has never really registered. And they're like, sometimes I'll like one, and sometimes I'll like both, but I don't care. Yeah. Like, it's better than some political post that's in my news feed anyway. So exactly. I'm like, okay, just making sure. Okay, I'll go back to posting.
Yeah, I think And, some people probably will care about that sort of thing, but the ones that count don't.
Exactly.
And if 1%, if 1% of the people that see your post like it and buy a piece of your artwork and the other 99% of them don't like it, then it's worth it still for that 1%. And
so true.
Yeah. And friends are great like that. I've got friends that have like 3 different Instagram accounts, and they'll have like their personal, their work one, or their photography page or something, and they'll see my post and they'll like it on every single one of their pages. So probably half of the likes on my photos are just made up of all my friends' different accounts. They're true friends right there, because that's what you start off with when you're self-employed. You just have the friends and family base to support you. But
exactly. And even still now, my husband's grandmother, she comments on everything on Facebook and Instagram, and she figured out those little like video emojis, and so she puts a video emoji on there, and it's just the cutest thing.
That's so sweet. I love that.
I know. See, I'm like, keep doing it. I love it.
Exactly. I would say it's worth it. But yeah, for people that feel self-conscious, including myself, I would say don't care, because it's your livelihood, and that's the only way that you're going to get your artwork out there otherwise, unless you just walk the streets with like a sandwich board on, being like, this is my artwork. So.
Yeah, which is like plan M or whatever. It's down there, but it's on the list.
You're ticking off the things you've done. Right, I've done 7 Instagram posts today. Onto the sandwich board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I even like considered at one point, when I wasn't getting very much attention at first, I was like, okay, I used to do some like bikini modeling way back in the day, and I was like, I am not opposed to posing next to a bikini in my. I've never done it, but I'm like, if worse comes to worse, I know how to get attention.
We've been there. One of my friends actually said to me recently, he was like, why don't you just do a live stream video of you painting in the bath? Come on, just give them what they want.
Just give them what they want. Exactly.
It's like, well, if it gets me all for the gram.
I can see it. No, it'll be like bubbles and
my easel.
Yes, exactly. If hard times become hard, like this is
gotta do what you gotta do.
I love it. Awesome. Okay, so what are your future art plans and goals? What do you have on? What are you going on right now? What's on the easel? Like, what's ahead?
Well, right now I'm doing a charity piece. And I may have told a little lie. I'm not sure if I should admit this live on Instagram, because I actually lied about it on my post.
Oh,
and
I love it. It's just full of honesty. I love it.
I know. I don't know what it is. You're bringing out the truth in me. But I did a painting, and I promised it to a charity, because I give a certain amount of my artwork off to animal charities to auction off each year, and totally forgot that I had promised it to this charity and just sold it. And then it wasn't until a little while after it had gone that I suddenly thought, oh no, I was supposed to give that to that charity, and now I feel awful because I'm going to have to go to the charity and say to them, I actually just forgot and sold it. And so I've been working on a piece, and because I felt so bad, I thought I'm going to do a piece that's like 3 times the size, and it takes me much longer. And so I've been doing a rhino for the charity, and I did tell the charity, I was honest with them, so it's okay that I lied on my Instagram about it. But I've been working on that.
It's an honest mistake, though.
Yeah, I guess so. It's a good mistake to make if you're like selling stuff, at least. But so I'm working on the rhino at the moment, and then once that's finished, I've got a commission that I need to do. But I've had on my to-do list for a while, I've had a series of big paintings that I have really wanted to do for a while now. I'm not going to say what animal it is, because, again, I haven't told anyone on my Instagram. I've been keeping everyone guessing.
Ooh, okay.
But it's going to be a big one. Not quite as big as my recent elephant commission that I did, but bigger than anything else. And, my goal for the future, I really want to get a solo exhibition done sort of in sort of affiliation with a charity, because I give 10% of my profits to animal charities anyway. So I would love to be able to do a charity exhibition as well. But again, that's going to take some time to sort of build up the portfolio for that, because I feel like with artists, it's really, well, for me personally, this is what I'm still learning at the moment, is that I find it really hard to do a piece of artwork and then keep it for an exhibition, because I'm like, right, I've done it, now I'm going to sell it immediately because I need money.
Yeah.
And so it takes a while to be able to build up like a solid amount of work to exhibit. So that's my goal for, the not too distant future, hopefully, and just continue to work on my own technical ability. That's still something I'm trying to improve every day, and still watching tutorials and learning different techniques and stuff like that, and just working on that and myself and building up more of a client base and stuff like that.
Oh, all the artist things. So do you have a favorite person or a favorite channel to watch on YouTube, or somebody that has helped you learn how to paint since you didn't go to college for it? You're mostly self-taught.
To be honest, most of what I learned in the beginning was from my brother, because he is an incredible artist.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, he doesn't do it for a living. I don't know, he's one of those really annoying people that's really good at everything he tries to do.
I hate him already.
Whatever. Yeah, I know. He just pick up any, and I have my specific techniques that I stick with, but he'll just be able to pick up anything. Like, he can draw, or he can paint, or he can use charcoal, he can do airbrushing. Like, it's just, I feel like he could pretty much do any kind of medium. But I learned a lot from him. He was my foundation of knowledge, and then from there I follow so many artists on Instagram and Twitter, and watch a lot of videos like that. And to be honest, I usually just go on YouTube and type in something specific that I want to learn, like how to create this effect, how to do a hair effect, how to do different light source variations, stuff like that. So yeah, just at the moment I'm kind of trying to own in on my colour theory sort of knowledge, because I know the basics and I use it, but I feel like that's something that I kind of want to improve on a little bit more.
I gotcha. So Mary Evelyn, she's been commenting on here. She's a big fan of yours.
Oh, great.
She's in Branson, which isn't too far from me, and she's a great
Amazing.
Yeah, she does watercolor animals. She asked a question. She says, do you learn any techniques from Skillshare? Just curious. She's actually, I think she has a new class on Skillshare, which is probably why she's asking.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Do you know what? I have a class on Skillshare as well, but I just put it on there because I do tutorials and put them on my Patreon page, but they're just short ones every few weeks, just for my Patreons, because I got asked a lot of questions, like, how do you do this and how do you do that? And I'm not an expert, I'm not like I haven't reached mastery, so I don't feel like I can start making big hour-long video tutorials and stuff. But because so many people were asking me similar sorts of questions, I decided to set up a Patreon, and I just post videos and little tutorials and time lapses, and people get free prints and originals and stuff like that, based on whichever tier they're on. So I do that, and I made a video for one of my Patreons and decided to give it a go on Skillshare, and then kind of uploaded it and then just forgot about it and haven't actually checked in until you just said that and I remembered. But I haven't actually been on Skillshare to watch videos yet, but I know about it, and it's definitely something I would consider doing it, because I think it's great. I think it's really a great source for artists to sort of share their knowledge and earn a little bit from that as well. So definitely I would look into that.
Awesome. Yeah, she said that's exactly what I wanted to know, and she'll follow you for sure.
Ah, amazing. That's so cool. I haven't been looking at the questions on the bottom because I'm not very good at multitasking, and I was afraid I would lose track. Someone would ask, or someone would say something like, "You're so rubbish at art," and I would start crying or something.
Oh no, it's all been pretty great actually. I've as you're talking, I'll get little bits of it. There was a question a while ago. Somebody asked, "How do you price your art?" And I think that's a question that all artists kind of struggle with. Do you do it by size? Do you do it by?
Not well, kind of, yeah. I get asked that a lot as well, actually, from artists, and it's something that's taken me a while to get to grips with, because when I first started, I wanted, there's a temptation to price your artwork where all of the other artists are pricing theirs. But the problem is it takes you a lot longer because you're not quite there yet in terms of your skill. So I was giving myself I was like, I'm going to pay myself £5 an hour, which is probably like $3 an hour or something. And it's really, really difficult. So I give myself an hourly rate, and then I add the materials and the expenses to that. And depending on the size, postage as well, if that comes into it, or, for example, the elephant commission that I did, the post that was going from England to America, and it went with an art courier that made a special crate for it, and it costs quite a lot of money to do that. So obviously I had to discuss that with the client. But yeah, I would give yourself an hourly rate that you think is fair. And by fair, I mean, if you've just started and you're taking a little longer than other people, then it probably should be lower, because you don't want to give yourself a certain amount of money per hour and then it takes you like a month to complete a piece of artwork.
Don't be entitled, like you said. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, leave that at the door, definitely. Sometimes you just got to, see it as a promotion opportunity rather than, one for great profit. But having said that, if you are going to go for it as a career, you do need to make sure that you are making a profit, because I know people that price their artwork so low that they're actually kind of losing money. And, it does make me quite sad, because people give away, like these beautiful original paintings and they're charging next to nothing. So I know that's the most vague answer to that question, but it really just depends how long it takes you to create your artwork, I would say. Yeah. And the expenses as well. If you're buying the correct stuff, then that's definitely something you want to include as well.
Yeah, that's exactly how I do it. So I'm relieved to hear that.
And I just saw one of my followers, and probably your followers too, because I imagine most of my followers follow you anyway, just said it's hard to track the hours. And it is really hard to track the hours. I have just sort of given up, because I would have to set a timer and start it and stop it every time I get up to like go and get a drink, and then get distracted and end up like going for an hour-long walk or something. It is hard to track the hours, but you've just got to be really strict on yourself.
For sure. Somebody asked the question, what do you suggest for a beginner who would want to get into the field? Like, what hourly rate? I think that's what they're asking. Well, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, and also it depends on where you're from as well, because in England, for example, people are probably on, I mean, I don't want to say what I was on as a teacher or anything like that, but when I was working privately tutoring, I was charging a certain amount per hour, and I was like, okay, well, I don't want to like, jump from one thing to the other and then take a huge pay cut, but say as an example, just say you're getting $30 an hour in your job, and then you would be like, okay, well, that's a good place to start, and I'm probably going to have to come down a bit from that, because I don't want to be entitled, and it's going to take me a bit longer. Say you might come down to like $20 an hour or something like that, and then you can work your way up, and one day you might be on $100 an hour or something.
Yes.
So yeah, go from where you think. I think only you can be the judge of your own skill as well.
There you go. Yeah, that's a really good into that as well. And I love that we have very similar numbers in our head, because in my head I was like, what I tell my students, I'm like, I started out at about $30 an hour too, like you said.
Exactly.
And that was after I had a little bit of practice, actually it wasn't brand new, $30 an hour. And then I remember getting hired at a job for a bit more than that, but I remember knowing that the main artist made $100 an hour. That was like, I mean, he was well worth it. He was so good. And I was like,
exactly.
Goals, like that's what it's, that's my goal.
Yeah, and it's good to have goals as well, and not just to think, well, this is what I deserve immediately, because I remember when I first started out, someone said to me, oh, well, my family friend is an artist, and he charges £30,000 per commission. And I was like, wow. Yeah. I was like, just do like a couple of those a year and you're done.
Yeah.
And I started to think like, oh no, like, does that mean my artwork's worthless then? Because I'm charging nothing near that. And I just started out, and yeah, you do have those feelings of like, maybe I should be charging that. But yeah, just don't put too much pressure on yourself. But do make sure that you're not throwing money down the drain as well, because, you know, it's your career at the end of the day.
True. Yeah. Okay. Well, we have one last question, and then I will let you off here. Is there any advice that you could give to artists who want to make art their full-time career, but don't even know where to start?
I would say set yourself some realistic goals, something that's doable, and write them down as well. That's what I personally find helps, because then you can go back and actually like tick them off. And it's a sense of accomplishment as well, more than anything. Don't be too hard on yourself as well. It's really tough. It's a tough career to get into. I mean, I posted about this a couple of days ago, actually, about, I think if you're an artist, people presume that you're like living the dream and life's really easy. And it can be hard. It's really tough sometimes to be self-employed. But in terms of advice, I would say it's subjective, but make sure you've got some steps in place. I probably wouldn't suggest like jumping headfirst into it and just quitting your job and not really caring what happens, because you know this is your lifetime goal. Make it a gradual thing that you set yourself up for, and always, any time you've got to practice, keep practicing your skill. Don't ever make the mistake of thinking that you've learned everything that there is to learn. I would say out of business and art, I would say that your technical skill and your art side of it is more important than business. And I know there's probably people that will disagree, but I feel like you can be the best businessman in the world or businesswoman in the world, but if your artwork isn't sellable yet because it's not at a certain standard, then it's not going to sell. So that's what you need to work on first, and then business will come afterwards.
Like, because it's, and also again to that point, it's so much easier to sell a great painting than it is a good painting, even.
Yeah.
Like, and that's kind of what I think to people, that if they're like so confused on what to do, I'm like, just go back to painting. Like, go paint, go
totally. Just keep creating and it will come. And I do hear a lot of people, for some reason, I've heard the quote, "Let your art sell or speak for itself," or "your art should sell itself," sort of that sort of vibe. And I kind of disagree with that, because a lot of people like to buy into a person. They like to buy into who's creating the artwork. And I'm sure, like, if you look at some of the greatest artists of our time, or not specifically our time, but any time, you know, if someone saw a Picasso and they didn't know who it was by, they probably wouldn't be that interested in buying it. But because it's a Picasso, everyone gets all excited, and it's this amazing thing. So I would say share your art on social media, but also share a bit about yourself and who you are. Be modest about it. Just show them, you know, what you're doing, what you're all about. Create videos and time lapses and your creative process, and use social media a lot to do, you know, to share your artwork. Don't be too self-conscious. Just go for it.
Just go for it. Yes, I love it. I think that's all. I think you've been very real throughout this whole interview as well, which I really appreciate.
Oh, amazing. Thank you.
It's just nice to talk about it with someone who is just really honest with, like, hey, I accidentally forgot to do something, but hey, I'm doing really well at this. And hey, like,
well, thank you. I mean, there'll probably be people that disagree with some of the stuff I said, but this is just what's worked for me, and I'm self-taught and still new to it, so, you know, I'm still learning as well.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, and somebody just commented, you're very honest, and it's so refreshing. So, yeah, we're on the same page with that. I think it's great.
Yay.
Well, it was so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on here so last minute.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited that I messaged you. I had a person cancel, and you were on my list to invite in the future, and I'm like, I want to invite her now. So I'm so glad.
It was so nice. It was nice to wake up to. I forgot that you were in America, and it was like, you have a message at 4:40 a.m. Yeah. I was like, wow, someone is having a party. And then I realised the time difference. So it was a nice thing to wake up to. It was a nice surprise, and I'm very happy that you invited me on. Thank you.
Awesome. Yes. Well, let's chat again at some point. And I hope
that'll be great.
Yes. I hope you enjoy your day. And this will go live exactly a week from today, and I'll send you all of the info with it. And so, yeah, thanks again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on. And thanks to everyone that tuned in and messaged and commented. And I'm sorry I ignored every single one because I was too scared to read any of them.
No, it's great. Awesome. Well, have a great day. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time six-figure art business. With weekly trainings that include step-by-step proven art business techniques, plus painting tutorials from yours truly and other guest artists who are masters in their field, you will be well equipped to learn and grow into the highly skilled and highly profitable artist you know you're meant to be. I've figured out what it takes to build my own six-figure art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. It's not hard, but it does require your time and dedication. So, if you're up for the challenge, go to advancedmember.com. That's advancedmember.com to learn more. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. If you review our podcast and send a screenshot of that review to me on Instagram, I am at @ArtByAndreaEarhart. I will then promote your art on my story and tag you as a little thank you for helping me grow this podcast and our Artist Academy community. I have a reach of over 50,000 on Instagram, so this is a little help me to help you incentive. Also, if you ever want your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop on over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy to check out the schedule every Tuesday to catch us on live. I'll see you next week.